Salutations, my Fallout lovers. It is Matty here today with my Fallout 4 Automatron DLC review. I recently held a poll on Twitter asking you guys what video you wanted to see next for Automatron, and you decided you wanted to hear my thoughts on this DLC before going forward with any guides or how-tos. So here we are now discussing my thoughts on the DLC. It's solid, but it's definitely not perfect. It does have some flaws that I'll be getting into, but anyway, it's worth mentioning that this is going to be spoiler-filled, but you should be okay considering this DLC only takes about 2.5 hours to complete, so you could really X out this video and go play it and then come back and watch it almost instantly. But now let's get into it, starting off with the surprisingly emotional beginning, I thought, where you meet Ada and you find out that her entire caravan has been killed and she's expressing human-like feelings. I was kind of caught off guard by that, thinking, oh, it's a robot, right? You know, who cares? She's actually pretty well written and she has some very interesting dialogue, but more importantly, she actually shows some emotion during the storyline, and I thought that was really cool. She shows anger, she shows the want for vengeance, she shows happiness, she shows satisfaction, and I thought that was pretty cool to see from a robot companion, although she's not a very well flushed out companion in comparison to the rest in Fallout 4, where each one is absolutely fantastic in my opinion. I did think Ada did a good job, but she really wasn't perfect. Like I said, they could have done a better job flushing her out, but nonetheless, I was quite surprised at the emotion in the beginning. It kind of spirals downward from there in the terms of the story, but this really isn't a DLC for the story, right? I could totally agree to that, but nonetheless, I would be unfair if I was just reviewing this for what it's supposed to be, not the whole package. What's nice though is right after this moment, the customization unlocks right away and you can literally go straight to your settlement and start building your own customized robot, which is very, very exciting. Mind you, you don't have all the mods yet, but still nonetheless, it unlocks right away, which is awesome. You set it up in your settlement and you can go ahead and put Ada inside the robot builder and you can start customizing her to your want. And I gotta say that this customization is top notch. I really like the system where it's about killing the robots and they have all these different parts on them, whether it's SentryBot parts or Assaultron parts and so on, and then from there you find yourself switching and mixing and matching and putting different weapons on, and then each type has different armor for these parts, and then you have buffs for each one to kind of make various builds of these robots. It's really, really cool, and I gotta say, it's some top-notch stuff, man. You're gonna get sucked in there and you're gonna be overwhelmed with the options. Also, on top of that, I thought that the new weapons and armor inside this DLC were freaking fresh, man. Are you kidding me? Some of them were really, really cool. I really like the Assaultron head. I really, really love the Tesla gun. Getting the Mechanist armor was obviously fantastic. I also like the new layered armor that is robot parts. That was really cool. I like the introduction of some of the new factions and lore in this DLC. They really did a good job with that stuff as well. Also, it's really cool that this has multiple endings on the DLC, which is absolutely fantastic. There is a good ending and a bad ending, and I know that that's not something that should be worth applauding for in a DLC, but with Fallout 4's ending controversy still being a discussion point, I figured it was worth pointing out that, yeah, there's a good ending, there's a bad ending. You can kill the Mechanist, you can convince her to take off the mask and move on from a life of crime. Which gets me to my next point, which is a complaint that the Mechanist reveal was incredibly weak in my opinion. I didn't expect it to be anything mind-blowing or crazy, but I think they could have done a better job with it. It is quite interesting that there's a little Easter egg where you can find a drawing from Derek Passion, hence the DP logo on the top left of the drawing of the Mechanist, and that's kind of how she got inspired to become the Mechanist and try to, quote, save the Commonwealth. Her motivations make sense and everything, don't get me wrong, but just the fact that it was kind of a no-name in a DLC that had a story that really wasn't that interesting after the first 20 minutes or so kind of left it feeling flat. I thought it was awesome that she was a woman, though. I think that's really cool. I think it caught a lot of people off guard. A lot of fans caught onto it right away because of the bigger chest plate, and you could hear different cracks in the voice as the DLC progressed onwards, hinting that she was a woman. But what's awesome about during this moment is that there's actually unique dialogue if you have the Silver Shroud costume, and I think that's something that's worth noting from Bethesda. Seriously, they did take into account a lot of feedback. I noticed that during the conversations, the text for the description of what you were going to say in the conversation was considerably longer than anything I saw in the base game for Fallout 4. On top of that, you seem to be able to ask more questions than before in the game, and I know it's just a small slice of content, but still, it shows that they're taking in feedback and trying to apply differences whenever they can. Now, Automatron is a very solid piece of DLC, but there is one thing holding it back from being absolutely awesome, and that is its endgame. After you defeat the Mechanist, whether it's on good or bad terms, you unlock every single mod in the robot customization workstation. And at first you're like, oh, awesome, and then you find out there's a Radiant Quest system. And to me, although Radiant Quest quests aren't that appealing, especially because of the settlement system in Fallout 4. We've already had enough. I thought to myself that it would be actually quite interesting because maybe I'd be hunting down robots and getting brand new unique parts for my robot. Instead, the game hands me every single mod for my robot in the game and then gives me this Radiant quest line to just literally go out and kill robots and get 80 XP for each time I do it. This was such a blown opportunity in my opinion. It would have been fantastic if they didn't give us all the mods right away and said, here's a giant ass Radiant quest line where each time for like hours and hours and hours you're getting brand new mods. You can get drill arms, you can get lightning guns, you can get different pieces of armor, and there's so many pieces of armor and different mods in Automatron. I think it really would have been rewarding for those who put the time in if they made it this way, where the Radiant questline was about getting new parts. Now don't get me wrong, they do drop mods such as different legs and arms and all that stuff, but you already have all of them because you finished the questline. It kind of defeats the purpose of it. So essentially what you're doing is spending $10 on a subpar story that gives you the ability to customize your own robots. But I'm not undermining that at all, okay? Hear me out there. I am not undermining that at all because I'd rather them get the customization right, which they completely did perfectly. There is so many options. And what's really cool is that some of these Automatron robots that you build actually count as settlers in your settlement, so you can go to different settlements and actually populate them with the robots you're building. And on top of that, it really does a great job of making me pick up everything once again. In Fallout 4, I tended to pick up stuff that would help me with weapon upgrades and the occasional settlement items every now and then because I'm one of the, it seems, few that really do enjoy the settlement mode. But I have to say that Automatron really has me looking around for more stuff because it is a lot of item consumption to build some of these parts over and over and over. And that shows off one of Fallout 4's greatest strengths, which is the fact that every item has value, and now that you're stretching these resources more and more thin, it gets even deeper. But what I think Automatron did most to show why Fallout 3 and New Vegas's DLCs were both so loved, and it's because they took you to new areas, told you a new story, gave you new locations to explore. And while Automatron does tell a new story and it does bring you to 2 brand new locations, although they are kind of reused inside areas that are already inside the Commonwealth that just go deeper, I still think that this could have been considered a misstep for a lot of gamers. But for me, if it's $10, that's fine, man. I got about 5 or 6 hours out of this DLC, and that's more than I really expected. At times I speculated maybe 10 to 15 hours, but I thought that would be a ridiculous amount for $10. But honestly, if you're on the fence with this DLC and you're just looking for more Fallout, it'll do the job for you. But if you're one of those Fallout fans, and I've seen many of you guys doing so who are just holding off on Wasteland Workshop as well as Automatron, just waiting for Far Harbor, you're not really missing out on anything huge. But man, that robot customization is fantastic. It didn't really blow my socks off, but like I said, it's just solid. It's just a solid piece of DLC, but it's not anything that you must play. But since there isn't that much endgame content to Automatron, here's what I'm hoping is that the survival mode comes out very soon. Bethesda did say it's going to be entering the beta soon. We don't know what soon is. It could be a week, could be 2 weeks, could be a month. Who the hell knows? But also on top of that, I hope Wasteland Workshop comes out very soon as well, because I think now that the end game for Automatron isn't as much as I thought it would be, I think that Fallout 4 is now in desperate need of brand new content that's going to have some form of longevity, and that is absolutely going to be the survival mode. But anyway, those are my thoughts on Fallout 4's Automatron DLC. Like I said, it's solid. It's worth your $10 if you're a Fallout fan. If you're holding off and you're really not convinced still, then by all means you can pass up on this and buy it at some point. I wouldn't say it's something that you should entirely pass up on because it's brand new to Fallout, being able to customize and create your own robots and give them personalities and stuff. It's really cool. It's a really deep mode, but still, nonetheless, it's not perfect, which I don't think any of us expected. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this in the comments down below. Other than that, be sure to follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. The links are in the description down below. Check out SugarBomb.com, the place by Bethesda fans for Bethesda fans. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.